I don't know about my first memory, but I'm going to tell you about what I thought. When I woke up this morning, I've been sick all week and in bed sick, which is not typical for me. But I woke up this morning, I thought, I'm going to go say a few words about Rob. And it made me smile.
What made Rob immediately, just easy to work with is he is just easy to work with. He rarely gets upset.
He will throw you a curveball at any time. You never know what he's going to say in a meeting, which I think is really fun and kind of keeps you on guard at any time.
We have a lot in common, I'd like to think, but Rob and I are both kind of spontaneous people.
He knows or is related to or will get to know everybody along the way.
I didn't have a cell phone. And Rob got slightly disturbed that he could not get a hold of me when he wanted me. So Rob bought my first cell phone.
I remember when I first came to LRK, a number of the principals telling me that Rob was the best when it came to large, complicated projects like FedEx Forum or the ballpark. And I think his collaborative nature is what fits in so well with that.
Well, I love listening to Rob's stories about his kids because you just watch him glow. All you gotta ask is, how's Phoebe or how's Brant? And it's just amazing to hear all the great stories that he has to tell, and you just watch a dad's glow.
He's an outdoorsman. He's an architect. He's a family man. He could just as easily go deal with the guys in the field as to deal with the banker down the street. That's Rob Norcross. He's well-rounded.
Before Rob, I didn't know that it was okay to really just share that passion with people, and that could be a good thing, that could be a real attribute.
I certainly learned to make connections with clients after watching Rob kind of do that. It certainly changed the way that I dealt with people within the industry and that sort of thing.
It's hard to rattle him. It's hard to get him to stop. Just whatever he's doing, it's full tilt bozo.
Rob Norcross is genuine. The one thing that I can say is that over the 2.5 decades of knowing Rob and working with Rob, I can not think of a time that Rob was unpleasant. He's genuinely a pleasant person to be around. I don't think that stems from him wanting to please. That's the way he is. That's the essence of Rob Norcross.
I grew up on a farm in Arkansas, and so all my friends were starting to hunt, and I would go with them and with their families. And it was just a good time to be together and do a little hunting. And would go deer hunting with a friend of my dad's named Curtis Kent. And then Dr. Swingle would take me duck hunting, as well as the Shinneberries, who are Catholic. I grew up Catholic. And I'm an Episcopalian because I married one. She didn't want to be a Catholic.
There's just been a number of projects over the years where Rob, he just helped lead it, drive it, made sure the client was taken care of, satisfied, and that's why people call back, because he takes care of them. So he does that both internally and externally. Part of it is his positive personality, but his willingness to do anything, which I appreciate a lot. Sometimes people say, I only want to do this, and that's great if you've got plenty of that to do, but Rob is just flexible. I mean, he doesn't have preconceived boundaries about what he should or shouldn't do. It's like whatever it takes to make the project happen, to help the team out. I've never had a situation with Rob where he said, well, I don't do that, or I don't want to do that, or he's just like, tell me, what do we need to do, and I'll go do it.
Called me back.
No, but when you came and interviewed the first time, we walked out on the mall and made an offer.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I remember, because you and I
And
were
then the
up in,
boomerang happened.
we were on like 7 at 88 Union. You, me, and Dave Dawes.
Yeah.
That was a fun interview.
Dave called me the bull in the china shop.
That's appropriate.
No wonder we get along.
It's never been my story. It's everybody.
Well, I know it is, but today it's kind of your role in the LRK story. So
You asked me to go over to the other side of this building and see what the sun patterns were. So I had to look through the sun patterns for a long time to make sure. Well, Dean was probably pushing that.
Well, that's right. Because you can't.
He didn't want the shadows.
Yeah,
to
for the
come out
picture.
too
Yeah,
far
we had
for
to keep the sun out of the pitcher's eyes.
Right,
yeah.
right.
When we had the most complicated project that had a lot of entities and a lot of people involved, Rob was the guy that was going to run that project. And I think that's because his low ego. He could set his ego aside, and it was all about communication and getting people around a table together. He taught us early on, and we have these meetings, and we didn't understand it. Well, why are we having a meeting with 20 people, Rob? And he said, no, this is what we have to do. We all have to just get in the same room. We have to talk this out and flip through a page, and everyone has to kind of really buy into what we're doing. His passion that he has shown for the profession, for design, for the betterment of the city. We share a lot in common there.
Let me say something about Rob Norcross. Rob is he's an artist. Rob can take my crudest ideas and turn them into something really quite beautiful.
Whether it's LRK staff, clients, consultants, or general contractors, it doesn't matter the wide range of personality types. Rob gets along well with everyone. He's amazing.
Let me tell you another Rob story. I had a piece of property down in the south end, and I didn't want it to look like one massive apartment development, but it was. So it came time to do a place that sort of felt and looked like New Orleans. And I told him that, and he drew something that was quite good. But then I value engineered it. I value engineered the thing. And it didn't look like New Orleans. When I got through with it, it looked about like Jackson, Mississippi. So I'd gotten halfway there. So the punchline is, I had to go back and value engineer Rob back into the project, which indeed I did. And now it looks decent. It wasn't as good as he originally conceived, but it was, it's okay. I apologize to Rob.
Very quickly along the way, we understood collectively that Rob is the Tasmanian devil.
With all due love and affection, Rob has a very frenetic, ADD kind of way of attacking things from all different angles, all at the same time.
All gangly arms and legs and verbal ideas and spinning around and crazy energy, exuberance. And that became his nickname and the image that we all associated with him.
Rob's quirky. And that's one of the things I like about him, is Rob is, he marches to his own beat. And I appreciate that, because I kind of do the same. And so it's nice to see that you can march to your own beat and have quirky habits and still be successful.
I was doing cast-in-place tilt-up storage building for Richard.
Okay, so you know that's what I did in Florida.
And I was like envious that he was doing houses. And so I was watching closely what was going on. And then as fate would have it, when you got out of your house phase, AutoZone happened.
Yeah.
And then I think I went to Frank, and like I always did, stood in his door and said I had to work on this project team. And followed you ever since.
I think our first trip there, we had to run down the, to get on the airport.
Mm-hmm.
We got to the airport late, and we were running down. They said, all right, I think that the door is closed, but just try. And
we're not that brave anymore.
And we ran down and knocked on the door, and they opened the door and let us in.
On the airplane?
In the airplane, yeah.
That was pre-9/11. Way pre-9/11.
It was.
But
couldn't happen today.
No.
When I met him face to face, he's just outgoing, major extrovert, and I'm the opposite. But that's what makes it great. So I was excited to have somebody as outgoing as Rob, and with the experience that he had.
And I remember interviewing with you, Carson, and Kiss, Richard.
Yeah.
He interviewed me and said, all right, you got the job.
Was that before you interviewed us?
The second day, he called me back and said, oh, my partners want to talk to you and make sure that I made the right decision. And they drilled me.
Really?
And then later that day, I came to LRK
for the interview?
For that interview. And that was
that.
That was it. That was it.
Well, that was good. That was good for us.
And good for me, too.
Specifically, the AutoZone corporate headquarters, I'd say there's a high probability we would not have landed that project but for Rob. We were not supposed to get the project, you know, we were too young, but Rob actually had gone to school with an architect that worked for AutoZone, and so, you know, at least it gave us the opportunity to have that conversation with him, and he worked really hard with us to deliver the best team that we could and strategy.
So there were Atlanta firms and going after it, and no one thought we had a shot at getting this project. But you had a lot to do with us getting it. Just your relationship with John, but that was a big deal.
Yeah.
You did a great job.
That one worked out.
That project instantaneously changed our sort of position in the Memphis context. So that was a big game changer. And then, of course, he helped with the FedEx Forum. He helped significantly drive in the ballpark. There's just been a number of projects over the years where Rob, you know, he just helped lead it, drive it, made sure the client was taken care of, satisfied, and that's why people call back, because he takes care of them.
If anybody that knows us see us, they're going to go, what the hell are they doing?
That'll be, everybody will get curious.
Who do they think they are?
That's probably a good thing.
Has anybody talked about Rob's driving?
Yes, I'm very experienced.
You know you're a bad driver.
I'm not a bad driver.
You are a bad driver.
I've never had a wreck. What do you mean by bad?
Rob's driving. Holy smokes, right?
You have to
ask anyone and they'll say, yes, I'm scared to ride with Rob.
Rob is the quintessential multitasker, especially when he's driving. We reached a point that we would fight over who would drive.
And my life has flashed before my eyes about twice driving with Rob.
I'd been working here for about a year and was really committed to taking transit to prove that you could and to prove myself wrong, I guess, in the end. And Rob saw me standing at the corner of Union and 4th one day and gave me a ride back home.
He texts and he drives and you're like, Rob? And you're like, Rob? And you're like, Rob? And eventually about that third or fourth time, you're like, Rob, stop, put the phone down.
I white-knuckled that trip all the way home. He ran 2 red lights. I'm sitting there going, oh God, he's just talking on his phone and he's driving.
But he's so dedicated to what he's doing. But at some point it's like, Rob, you have to stop. We have to focus. You're driving this car down a dark road in the middle of Arkansas.
The man's incredible, but his ability to eat breakfast, type an email, talk on the phone, change the radio station, and drive the car all at the same time will blow your mind.
It was very funny now that we didn't get hit by the lights that were coming at us, but it was very funny.
That was a favorite memory too. I love that memory. I really cherish that. That's like one of my favorite memories of Rob.
Driving with Rob is a religious experience. It makes you say a lot of prayers.
It makes me laugh. I mean, you know, surviving it. You're not a good driver.
I mean, nobody else has told me that. Only Scott.
Because I'm willing to say.
He's taught me a lot too.
It takes a lot of work because it's not me. It takes a lot of work for me to even try to be half of the patient leader that Rob is. Because as you know, I'm not the most, I like things to go 900 miles an hour. Rob has always reminded me, it's okay if it's going a little slower than I want it to. And I think that going a little slower part is what I'm not good at. And I think when we've worked on projects together and when you've led projects that I've been on, you've always reminded me that it's okay if it's going a little slower.
It always got to the finish line.
It always did, yes.
You know, he's a very good architect. He cares a lot about the projects, but most importantly, he cares about the people.
When I think of the words that describe him, he's warm and he's all heart.
And I think what Rob brought to LRK was a patience with people.
Rob is who I want to be when I grow up. When I see Rob, it's like, that's who I want to be.
He has a personal strength, but he hasn't any sharp edges.
So I would describe Rob as energetic, as approachable, as a great person to work with.
I mean, he will always spend time for you, and he'll always be there for you.
When I'm Rob's age, when I hit that, that's who I want to be. That's how I want to interact with other people. That's who I want to be seen as. That's the contributions I want to make. That is my goal, is Rob, to be Rob Norcross. I want to be Rob.
He's one of the few, out of all the principals, and I can say this about myself, he's probably one of the most dependable, straight up, no BS. What he says is what's here, and he doesn't play any games. Rob is Rob.